how is it fair or right or proper that if, say, you open up a new business in Detroit, that the unemployed workers of Detroit are going to have to compete against an endless flow of unskilled workers for the exact same jobs, reducing pay for those positions and reducing their chance of getting those jobs, while at the same time, ultra high-skilled workers are in the back of the line to get into the country. It makes no sense.
One moment from Wednesday's heated White House press briefing after President Trump declared his support for the Senate's RAISE Act, which would slash the number of green cards issued by 50%. Joining me, Stephen Camarota, Director of Research at the Center for Immigration Studies, and Jeremy Robbins, Executive Director of the New American Economy. Guys, I'm glad to have you both here, and I'm going to reach out to you first, Jeremy. How do you respond to Miller's and the administration's logic here?
Well, it's a false premise, right? I mean, sure, if we could bring in more high-skilled people and they weren't at the back of the line to grow our economy, that'd be a great thing. But that's not what this bill does. This bill cuts immigration in half. It slashes family immigration by 85%. Immigrants have $1 trillion in spending power in America. They employ 6 million people across the country. This would be a devastating bill for industries like fisheries, like agriculture, like tourism, like hospitality. Our immigration system is broken and we should fix it, and we should be smarter about attracting talent. That's 100% right, but that's not what this bill does.
So, Jeremy, in terms of the bill, I mean, what's so bad about wanting to attract more skilled workers? Is there an issue there that you have trouble with?
No, not at all, but this bill does not add a single visa for a skilled worker. There are 140,000 visas right now for workers in our country. In this new bill, there will be 140,000 visas. We do need to attract more skilled workers. We want to drive our innovation economy. We're graduating the top engineers and scientists in the world, and then we're sending them abroad to compete against us. We should fix that. That's not what this bill does. This bill slashes immigration in half.
So, Stephen, I know that you study the economic impact of immigrations. Can you talk about how this bill would affect wages and job growth?
Right. So the idea is right now about 70% of immigrants come in based on family visas without basically regard to their skills or education and the needs of the U.S. economy. Some are skilled, but a very large fraction get employment at the bottom end of the U.S. labor market, where real wages and employment have declined a lot. So Americans who don't have a lot of education make less than they used to, and they're working less than they used to. So the idea is let's reduce some of that competition at the bottom end of the labor market, and at the same time, let's be more selective about the skills folks we let in. So the bill makes a lot of sense. It's still going to allow in 5 or 6 million people every decade, but that is less than the 11 or 12 million who'll be coming in now. But the idea is to help out people at the bottom end of the labor market. The other rationale is all the research shows if someone comes with less than a high school education or only a high school education, which still makes up very roughly half of the legal flow, they're an enormous fiscal drain, not because they're lazy, not because they all came to get welfare, but people with that skill level in the modern American economy don't make that much, and often they or their U.S.-born children qualify for a host of programs. Right now, about half of households headed by immigrants, based on government data, use one or more of the major welfare programs. So the idea behind this bill is let's rationalize it. Let's not take in so many unskilled people, help out the poor, and give the taxpayers a break.
So what's your response to that, Jeremy?
Well, first of all, two things. First, industry after industry depends on workers, high-skilled and low-skilled alike. And our $100 billion agriculture industry simply would not be able to function without low-skilled workers. So the notion that low-skilled workers somehow are drained because they might themselves take in more tax receipts than they pay in contributions is not how the economy works. We need the right workers so our industries can grow. There are lots of good American jobs in manufacturing, in agriculture, in these other industries that depend on getting workers of a lot of different types. This bill is going to slash that. It's going to put a lot of American jobs at risk. It's going to put a lot of American workers at risk.
And to take that even a step further, in an editorial, the Wall Street Journal argued that if the cost of labor rises too much for a specific job, employers will simply cease providing the service or move production overseas. That means fewer jobs for Americans, too. How do you respond to that, Stephen?
Yeah, now remember, about 75% of what we consume in the United States is actually made here. And most of what unskilled workers do is not things that move overseas. It's construction, it's service, it's nannies, maids, and busboys. And the good news is it won't spike inflation because the poorest 20% of the workforce only accounts for about 7 or 8% of economic output. So even if their wages rise 10% or 20%, the impact on consumers and the overall economy is small. Basically, the poor poor are very poor, and giving them a raise by lowering the level of immigration not only makes sense for them, but it makes sense for taxpayers because, as I said, there is this large fiscal drain. Take the area of agriculture. This bill doesn't touch the guest worker program in agriculture. We currently have an unlimited program to bring in guest workers in agriculture. This bill doesn't change any of that.
You want to respond to that, Jeremy?
Absolutely. Our guest worker program for agriculture is fundamentally broken. 5% of agriculture workers use it, even though 50 to 70% of agriculture workers are foreign-born. We do need immigrants to come work in our farms and other fields. Now, let's get real. There are millions of Americans who are struggling. There are millions of Americans who are not reaping the gains from the new economy, that automation and globalization are having real impacts, and we need to get serious about policy to help them.
All right,
but the
guys.
reality of this is the reality is that this bill doesn't do that.
Okay, guys, I'm unfortunately going to have to let it wrap there. I'm only got about 10 seconds left, so I thank you both, Jeremy and Stephen, for joining me. We'll continue to discuss.